In the long memory of sport, rivalries are often about victory, but some rise above the scorecard. Some reach into a deeper space, the part of us that mourns, rebuilds, forgives, and keeps moving. The story of Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield is not the tale of two fighters colliding. It is the tale of two men, wounded, gifted, and searching for meaning, meeting at the very center of their own storms. Before the world ever spoke their names together, Tyson and Holyfield were already destined to be compared. Mike Tyson emerged from struggle like fire erupting from the earth, a boy from Brownsville who learned early that survival wasn't promised and safety was a dream other children got to have. When he found boxing, it wasn't a sport, it was a lifeline. Under the watchful eye of Cus D'Amato, Tyson became something the world had rarely seen. Explosive talent shaped into mythic force. Reporters used words like phenomenon, once in a lifetime, the most feared man on the planet. But beneath the headlines lived a young man who carried hurt the way others carried oxygen. This is Mike Tyson in 1986. I was always afraid of being hurt, afraid of being nobody. Boxing was the only place I felt sure. Evander Holyfield walked a different road. Growing up in a tight-knit family in Georgia, he learned discipline not from chaos, but from structure. Church on Sundays, principles every day, and an unwavering belief that faith could soften any blow life delivered. He was never the loudest, never the flashiest. He simply worked, quietly, relentlessly, until he became a world champion who believed destiny had a moral direction. This is Holyfield in an interview from the early 1990s. You can't choose where you start, but you can choose how you carry yourself. Two men, different worlds, one born in fire, one shaped in faith, both heading toward the same summit. By the early 1990s, it felt inevitable that Tyson and Holyfield were meant to face each other. Yet life, as it often does, intervened. Tyson's world began to unravel. Legal battles, imprisonment, broken trust, broken relationships. The man who once walked into rooms with the certainty of a storm now walked with the weight of uncertainty. While the public speculated, the myth began to fracture. Commentators wondered out loud if he would ever return to the mountaintop. But even through the darkest nights, Tyson's name carried a longing, the hope that redemption was still possible. Meanwhile, Holyfield kept winning, kept praying, kept staying the course. His public image was one of dignity, yet privately he faced his own struggles, injuries that lingered, doctors who questioned his heart, an entire sporting world labeling him past his prime. But he believed in something beyond the voices, beyond the doubts. And so, when the long-delayed meeting finally approached, commentators framed it as a clash of styles. But it was more than that. It was a clash of philosophies. Tyson represented raw intensity, a man trying to reclaim what life took from him. Holyfield represented resilience of a quieter kind, a man who believed storms were temporary, but character was forever. Two paths, long and winding, converging at last. When Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield finally stood across from each other, something unexpected happened, something the world wasn't prepared for. This wasn't spectacle. It wasn't the baddest versus the holiest. It was two men looking into mirrors they never asked for. Tyson saw in Holyfield a man who had survived doubt without losing himself. Holyfield saw in Tyson a man who had survived heartbreak without guidance. The moment they touched gloves, history paused, not because of strategy, but because it felt strangely human. Two lives, two journeys, two different kinds of pain, colliding under bright lights neither man truly needed. And the world watched not for violence, but for revelation. Because everyone sensed it, something deeper was unfolding. Sometimes history is shaped not by victories, but by fractures, sudden, unforgettable breaks in the narrative that force us to confront uncomfortable truths. For Tyson and Holyfield, that moment came in a way the world still talks about, not with celebration, but with reflection. It was a moment born from frustration, fear, exhaustion, and the crushing pressure of expectation. A moment where emotions, the ones never addressed, never soothed, never fully understood, burst through the seams. The act itself shocked the world,
It overshadowed everything surrounding it. Commentators sat in silence. Fans looked on in disbelief. Tyson, overwhelmed by chaos inside that no one else could see. Holyfield, stunned by an action he never imagined from a man he respected. But behind that infamous moment was an unspoken truth. Mike Tyson was not a monster. Evander Holyfield was not a victim. They were two human beings standing at the intersection of pressure, trauma, expectation, and faith. This is a sports columnist in 1997. People forget Tyson was a young man carrying the weight of empire. The world wanted him to be invincible. Nobody considered what it meant if he wasn't. This is a pastor's comment on Holyfield. Evander's strength wasn't glory, it was grace. Even in shock, he held on to it. When the chaos settled, a strange silence fell, the kind that comes only after something irreversible has occurred. Both careers would continue, both reputations would evolve, but that moment, that split-second breaking point, became one of the most studied, debated, and misunderstood chapters in modern sports. Yet hidden beneath the controversy was the beginning of something much more important. Time is a teacher, and for Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield, time revealed truths that the moment could not. Tyson, long after the spotlight dimmed, began confronting the parts of himself he had avoided for years. The boy who had been hurt, the young man who had been pushed into a myth, the adult who never learned how to carry the weight of fame. Therapy, reflection, fatherhood, and the slow return of self-awareness softened him. As he spoke openly about his struggles, the world began to understand not the fighter, but the man. This is Mike Tyson in later years. I was in a dark place. I didn't know how to ask for help. I'm not proud of everything, but I'm learning to forgive myself. Holyfield, too, grew wiser with years. He never carried bitterness. When asked about the moment that shocked the world, he consistently answered with calm, almost surprising gentleness. This is Holyfield in an interview. Life's too short not to forgive. Everybody's fighting something. I just prayed for him. This was a response that baffled some, inspired others, but ultimately revealed the core of Holyfield's character. Grace, not grievance. And then something remarkable happened. The two men, once cast as opposites, met again, not as rivals, but as survivors of the same era. Their handshakes turned into conversations. Conversations turned into understanding. Understanding turned into friendship. Not performative, not forced, simply human. The world, which had once pit them against each other, now watched them embrace, older, wiser, gentler. What once divided them now connected them. Pain to pain, faith to redemption, past to future. What remains today is not the controversy, not the sensational headlines, not the noise. What remains is the lesson. These two men embodied a truth many learn late in life. Greatness is rarely clean, it is rarely kind, and it is never simple. Mike Tyson showed us that even legends can break and rebuild. Evander Holyfield showed us that even the strongest hearts can be wounded, but still choose grace. Together, they demonstrated something even more profound, that forgiveness is not weakness, and redemption is not a myth. Their rivalry turned into one of the most unexpected stories of reconciliation in sports history. And their later years, filled with interviews, laughter, shared appearances, proved that time can heal even the deepest fractures. When we look back on Tyson and Holyfield, we find more than athletes. We find two lives intertwined by fate, separated by temperament, and ultimately united by understanding.
Two mountains standing side by side, shaped by different storms, carved by different winds, yet reaching toward the same sky. Their story reminds us that history is not defined by a single moment, but by the journey afterward. That forgiveness can outshine controversy. That redemption can rise from the ashes of regret. And that sometimes the greatest battles are not fought in arenas, but within the human heart. In the end, the world remembers the moment, but it honors the men. Two champions, two survivors, two souls who learned in their own time, in their own way, that the hardest thing in life is not to win, but to grow.